was asleep when the first text came through, the one that would unravel the threads of my carefully stitched life. The blue glow of my phone cast ghostly shadows across the bedroom. Her name flashed, leaving tomorrow morning. Girl's trip extended. I stared at it, heart thudding, fingers stiff on the screen. My first thought wasn't suspicion, it was annoyance. Another weekend ruined, another delayed plan. But the message carried a subtle undertone I couldn't place. The way she phrased it, almost casual, almost too casual. My gut tightened. I didn't know why, but I sensed the calm before a storm I hadn't yet seen. By Monday, she hadn't returned. At first, I told myself it was normal. She loved these trips, her way of unwinding. I busied myself with work, kept the routine, but every ping of my phone made my chest constrict. Her absence became a constant hum of unease. Even the little things she left behind, the faint scent of her perfume lingering on the pillow, a single hair caught in the bedsheet, felt like taunting reminders. The first real alarm came in the form of a receipt. I was cleaning the kitchen, the mundane clatter of dishes under my hands grounding me when I found it tucked between the couch cushions. A dinner in the city, late, lavish, charged to our joint account. My stomach twisted. She was supposed to be hundreds of miles away with her friends. I stared at the receipt as if it were a confession written in ink. I didn't confront her immediately. There's a strange, terrible logic to denial. I told myself maybe a detour, a business lunch disguised as leisure. Maybe my paranoia was turning everyday coincidences into evidence. But that night, insomnia brought clarity. I went through our shared email, her calendar, flight confirmations, hotel bookings. Nothing directly incriminating. Yet, in her sent emails, I noticed subtle gaps, cancellations, vague replies, and an address that wasn't a hotel. My world narrowed. Every memory, every laugh, every quiet evening together suddenly had a double edge. The way she smiled at the phone, the faint blush I once found endearing, it became fuel for suspicion. I began to track her movements. Not because I wanted to, but because I felt like my sanity depended on knowing the truth. 3 nights in, I drove to the address. The city was rainy, neon reflections dancing across wet asphalt, turning everything familiar into distorted shapes. My hands trembled on the wheel, but I told myself it was just the cold. The building was upscale, intimate, and suspiciously quiet. I lingered in my car, watching lights flicker in one apartment. There, in the dim glow of the living room, she laughed. Not the kind of laugh she shared with me, the effortless intimacy of someone who belonged somewhere else, with someone else. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. My stomach lurched, bowel rising. Every rationalization, every excuse I had clung to shattered. My hands were slick on the wheel. I wanted to confront her, to yell, to demand an explanation, but fear rooted me to the spot. My mind spiraled. Anger, hurt, betrayal, disbelief. Back at home, I confronted her in the silence of our bedroom. She smelled of travel, of perfume that didn't belong. She looked at me, startled, but her eyes held a flicker of something I couldn't name. Guilt? Or amusement? Where have you been? I asked, voice cracking despite my effort to sound calm. Extending the trip, she said, like a rehearsed mantra. Girls needed me. I laughed bitterly. Really? Because I saw the dinner receipt. The address that isn't a hotel. The late-night emails. Her face paled, but she didn't speak. That silence spoke louder than any confession. I trusted you, I whispered, the weight of years pressing down. And you, my voice broke. You couldn't even tell me the truth. She shifted, a defensive posture, eyes darting. It's complicated, she murmured. I shook my head, fury mixing with grief. Complicated? This is betrayal. The days after were a haze of surveillance, confrontation, and bitter attempts at rational conversation. She cried, pleaded, justified, but each excuse only carved a deeper hollow in my chest. I wanted her gone, yet part of me still ached with the memory of her warmth, her touch, the laughter that once felt like a home. Then came the lawyer. I hired one quietly, systematically, preparing for the confrontation I couldn't avoid. I wasn't ready to forgive, maybe I never would be, but I refused to remain a passive victim. There was a strange relief in the cold, Clinical preparation, drafting documentation, listing assets, planning contingencies. Each step was methodical, devoid of sentiment, a contrast to the chaos of my emotions. The confrontation came quietly, in the kitchen, over a shared cup of coffee we no longer shared fully. I laid the documents on the counter, watching her eyes widen. "I gave you every chance," I said softly. "But trust is not a currency to be gambled away. It's earned, and you spent it elsewhere." Her lips trembled. I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked out, the rain outside washing over me as if to absolve me of lingering doubt. The betrayal wasn't cinematic, it wasn't violent or loud. It was quiet, insidious, a slow erosion of shared life into suspicion and heartbreak. I realized then that the pain wasn't only hers or mine, it belonged to every silent moment where lies hid in plain sight. Weeks later, I found peace not in reconciliation but in clarity. I could remember her laughter without flinching, without tasting bitterness. I understood that love, even when betrayed, leaves behind a lesson. The power to reclaim yourself, to confront the unvarnished truth, and to walk away with dignity intact. She left eventually, of course. The house felt empty, echoes of our past clinging to corners. But I didn't grieve the loss alone. I grieved the illusion, the trust that had been my world. And in that grief, I found something sharper than sorrow, freedom. Because the hardest truth of all isn't that she betrayed me, it's that I loved her enough to notice, enough to act, and enough to survive.